Hey, welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Scott Fischer with Options for Senior Living. And you are listening to Don't Let Haboob Hit You in the Face. And if you have not seen what a haboob is, well, there's the picture of one. That's what it looks like. Looked like here last summer as a 65-mile wide, 1 mile tall wall of dirt hit greater Phoenix area. And that's Arizona State University getting swallowed up just over my shoulder. The crazy thing about these dust storms, these haboobs that hit us in the late summertime, is that we know it's the season for them. We know it could happen at any time. Many times we get up in the morning and we go to work and we'll see some clouds out over the horizon or whatever, and they're gathering over the eastern mountains, and we go, it's like a little rain today maybe. And then we are shocked when we come home from work and it's this. You guys, for 25 years, I have worked more than 25 years now. I have worked with families who love someone who is aging and their journey is taking twists and turns and presenting challenges to the family. And they are shocked when there's problems and emergencies come up and things happen, diagnoses, illnesses, scams, you name it. Haboob visits families. I started this as a conversation with myself and other professionals who have a front row seat to what's going on with families. And I couldn't be more excited. And then today, I'd introduce you to Jodie Khotim. Jodie has a front row seat. She has 2 front row seats, and we'll get to both of those. Jodie's a social worker by trade. We've known each other for more than a decade. She's a community engagement coordinator for the Arizona Alzheimer's Association. So Jodie, you have a front row seat to this. Thank you for joining me today and sharing your perspective and wisdom. It's good to see you.
Thank you, Scott. It's great to see you too. And thank you so much for this opportunity to talk about something that clearly I'm so passionate about and touches me professionally. And now I'm impacted personally. So I'm really excited to be a part of today's podcast and to speak about something that I think will affect most everybody in their lifetime, unfortunately.
Yeah. It really does. And so your front row seat is with your work. Your other front row seat is that your mom's been diagnosed, that she's been affected by dementia.
Yeah, that's right. I've been with the association, Scott, since 2014. And for the longest time, I didn't have a personal connection until I did. And like I said, I think that's just going to be the case for many of us. A couple years ago, my mom was diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment. We weren't sure if it would progress into Alzheimer's disease. Of course, we hoped it wouldn't, and because not every case does. But unfortunately, in her case, it did, and we just started to see some slow things. Kind of, it wasn't any big blaring things, but some things like my parents have 2 houses, and she was responsible for paying bills in one house. My dad would pay the bills in the other house, and then we came to discover she had stopped paying bills for the house she was responsible for overseeing the bill management. And some things we were seeing is we would tell her something of a serious nature, and then she would have an uncommon response. She would be goofy or giddy sometimes when we would say something of a serious nature. So some of these things started piling up to where we had to take her to get in to be assessed. And she went through the whole exhaustive process. And I know it was quite exhaustive, but she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's about a year ago. And since then, it's been a bit of a decline, but she's in good hands. So we're fortunate about that.
I imagine, and this was my experience, I think I shared with you last time we talked that I'd lost my mom end of last year. Mom had some mild cognitive impairment that never progressed, but even in the mild side of this, right, what I was dealing with was a lot of mood lability. I was dealing with and poor judgment, poor problem solving, poor insight, some real missed opportunities to communicate better between myself and her, as well as my brothers. A lot of chaos was just kind of swirling around her as she was, I think, scrambling hard to kind of keep it together. I think she was, fearful of what was happening. That personal experience has reawakened and maybe even opened up some new insights to my professional work. How about you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I told somebody that I now have a mom living with Alzheimer's, they said something like, well, now you have skin in the game. I recall someone saying that to me, and it's a very different experience. Scott, my first half of my time with the Alzheimer's Association, I worked directly with many family caregivers, coaching, care planning, guiding, but it's a whole different experience to have a close family member with it. You see it through a very different lens. So when I could speak with people and hear about the loss and try to coach and support them, it's just such a different experience to be on the receiving end of that. It's just,
Yeah.
I think it just feels like heartbreak and devastation.
Where do you find refreshment for you? Your work requires a lot of you. You're not a clinician. I went to nursing school 100 years ago. Well, 40, but it feels like 100. And, you know, and it feels many days that just the work is draining. You layer in a family member, layer in your mom. Where's your refreshment come from so that you stay healthy, fresh, helpful, vibrant in your work as well as for mom?
I mean, that's a great question, Scott. I think great example. Yesterday, I decided I needed to spend part of the day getting caught up on some medical appointments that I hadn't
Mhm.
scheduled for a number of months. And I know this is an area where I would always coach our family caregivers and emphasize that the health, the well-being of all of our family caregivers out there is every bit as important as the loved ones they're caring
Yeah,
for. So
yeah,
I do try to focus on my self-care. So yesterday I made 4 doctor's appointments I hadn't made in the last months that needed to get on my calendar. And also, I'm a passionate runner. I do most of my running on the weekend, but I'm almost a lifelong runner. So making sure that I'm doing all those things. So I'm running, I'm taking care of my health, I'm spending good time with my family, with my husband. So doing things I need to do to recharge and knowing
yeah,
when I spend time with my mom, I try to be very present with her and just enjoy as much time as I can. So that's also part of my self-care is being really focused and
yeah,
present with mom and then realizing when I'm not with her that it's really important to focus on other things, whether it's family, whether it's running, whether it's my love of the Suns. I'm kind of a crazy Suns fan. I have to watch each game. So taking care of those things and also taking care of my medical appointments that I realized yesterday, oh my gosh, there was 4 doctors I haven't reached out to that I'm overdue to see. So I think that's a big part of it too, truthfully.
huge, huge. We tell family caregivers all the time, and I bet you got some statistics on this, that often, particularly spouses of someone who's been diagnosed, have a higher degree of incidence of having their own healthcare issues um, accelerate, get out of control. You see people precede their loved ones who've been diagnosed because they've neglected their health, they've neglected their blood pressure issues, they've neglected their congestive heart, whatever the issues are. And while they're giving their best to their spouse, have not done the self care things. And so the fact that you're having to do those things reiterates to why you tell people exactly what you've been teaching them for all these years.
Right, and I'm not even a full-time caregiver. My mom is in a memory care, but I just realized yesterday that, oh, there was 4 doctors I hadn't reached out to that I was overdue to
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
And just knowing that, you gotta do that, and
Yeah.
also we know with caregivers, my dad just turned 89 actually yesterday, and we had to move her not so much I think sometimes it's due to people's advanced age, but also I
Mhm.
think we just have to recognize that not everybody either has the innate skills to be a caregiver or can acquire those skills. And
Yeah.
so, there were a couple of those factors at bay in terms of why we hit a point last summer when we thought, okay, my mom needs a higher level of care.
Mhm.
And so not everybody, even if they can do it physically, not everybody's equipped to take on the skills and the expertise needed. A caregiver so much is asked of them.
Yeah. We're living that with my in-laws right now, Jody. Mom had concerns. Dad had a couple of big strokes. It's now showing up as some memory loss issues and things, right, as this thing has gone on over time. And the damage from the strokes is really showing up. And so his functionality and his cognitive skills have really diminished. But mom knew that a couple of years ago and couldn't do the day-to-day care stuff with dad. So he's been in assisted living. We recently just moved him to a higher level of care because he does need more supervision and more hands on deck now than he did. He needs more caregivers more readily available to him than in kind of a larger setting. But Stacy had revelation last week. She came home a week ago, Friday, and she was really devastated, really sad. Her dad's her, dad, right. And she was really saddened by the visit. And she came back from a few days of reflecting on that and said, I think I need to change my expectations. I need you because what you just said was I got to go over there and be my best and show up and be my best for my mom and be refreshed so that I can show up and be present for her, I think was the word you used. And I think Stacy was having a hard time finding that ability to be present because she was saddened by the reality, the enormity of it, the reality of it. Talk a little bit more about that, if you would. And maybe that's been some of your experience too.
Absolutely. I think that readjusting expectations is very important. Something
Mm.
we did in our own situation before my mom moved to her new community last summer, we were having weekly calls. So in my family, I have a sister who lives locally. I have a brother in Orange County, California. Then, of course, my father. So something we started early on, and I think it was really helpful, is we would have a Sunday phone call with not with my mom, but with my siblings and my dad every Sunday in the afternoon. We were kind of talking about how's mom doing? Are we noticing any challenges? So just keeping a really good line of communication
Mm.
open. But as far as like readjusting expectations, I think sometimes you have to do that even within your own family. You might see or want things like people to interact differently with your mom,
Mhm.
but you have to, I
Mhm.
think, understand in some ways too that you can give other people, even family members, education, and they might take in some of that, but they might not take in all of that. So that's kind of a bit of a balancing act too, is obviously, I like to think I have a level of expertise with Alzheimer's and other dementia, but then there's like the whole family component, right? And everybody has their family and their family dynamics, and they don't stop at the doorstep when you have one of these devastating illnesses. So for me, I think I have to readjust some of my expectations in terms of what can my dad really understand about the disease, because there's still some things he doesn't quite get. So that's kind of for me having to readjust my expectations for him. And I don't constantly want to be saying, well, what about doing this? Or, you handle it this way and maybe you could have handled it that way, because that can in turn cause more, family friction with my dad, which I want to avoid. So I kind of have the position of trying to share valuable information, but understanding people's ability to take it in varies. And
Yeah.
that's okay because that's human nature.
Does dad see you as the daughter or someone of an expert or both? Or depends on the day?
I he does definitely see me as the daughter. I'm the baby, but of the three of us. And I'd like to think he sees me as an expert, but sometimes I will say sometimes when I've not been able to impart something important to him that I feel shouldn't go unsaid, I have also involved other professionals like at the community to try to also bring information up. And kind of the whole story. I don't know if you want to hear anything about how it is we came to decide she needed a higher level of care.
Oh,
Because
yeah. Yeah.
last summer, my parents typically spend the entirety of the summer in their Flagstaff home. Flagstaff had no day programs at the time. I believe they just now got some day program in Flagstaff, which is kudos to them. But
Yes.
because my mom had been attending a day club in Phoenix as of early last year, it was decided that their summer would consist of them going back and forth between Phoenix and Flagstaff so they could enjoy their time out of the terrible heat and enjoy themselves up there. Then she'd come down to Phoenix several days a week to go to her day program. We think that that may have hastened some decline with her, but so that's what the time was looking like, where they were splitting their time between Phoenix and Flagstaff. And last summer, there was a day in the middle of June when I received a phone call from my dad. It had just turned dark in Phoenix, and I received a very frantic phone call from my dad that he didn't know where my mom was, that she had gone for a walk in their community, and he had said okay to it because his understanding was she was walking with a charged phone. Turned out not to be the case. The phone was dead.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you know anything about Flagstaff, but it has like a dark city ordinance, so it's very dark in
Really
Flagstaff at
dark.
nighttime.
Yep.
Really dark. Fortunately, she was not gone for later than 15 minutes. But to receive what would turn out to be one of the most upsetting phone calls of my life, where I almost physically collapsed when my dad says, I don't know where your mom is. I can't reach her. It was only 10 or 15 minutes, but Scott, that was a real turning point for me. I decided right then and there a couple things had to change.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I kind of brought that to them, and kind of from that point on, I decided two things needed to change. I decided we've got to stop having her split time between Phoenix and Flagstaff. She needs to be in
Yep.
Phoenix so
Yep.
she can go to her day program, which was really her reason to be and is her reason to be. And I also decided she needed a higher level of care. So that was
Yeah.
something I was determined to bring to my siblings and my father. And with my siblings, it was met with support, but my dad wasn't quite ready to see that. Not the part about Phoenix and Flagstaff. He was fine with her staying in Phoenix, but he wasn't ready to have her not live with him. So that took a bit of convincing.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Kudos to you and to our audience. Here's a note. Jodie had a thunderstorm roll in that could have been a big, big mess if she had gotten farther away and dad didn't recover her. But you acted upon that, where you didn't wait for something even more profound. And there are families that would have ignored what you guys acted upon. And you guys as kids and even your dad working through it. Because another stormy time of my life, not only did I lose my mom last year, but in 2010, I went through very hard divorce. Wasn't expecting it. I'd been married 22 years. And one of the hardest parts of that, Jody, was being alone. You're used to having somebody at arm's length all the time.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden that person wasn't there anymore. And the odd part of that is it gave me insight when I was having a hard time sleeping and I felt amputated. What does it feel like to your dad or anyone who's been married 40, 50, 60 years and why they're reluctant to let go? They don't want to be alone, man. Even if it's a chaotic mess, you see families having a hard time unplugging or letting go because being alone might be one of the most frightening, if not the most frightening emotion we face.
Sure. And I think that my parents have been married, Scott, like 63 years. So
Yeah.
they have been in each other's lives the majority of their life. So when I
Yeah.
first broached the topic with my dad that I think we need to move her to a higher
Yeah.
level, he
Yeah.
wasn't ready to hear that. And
Yeah.
he got upset. He got upset and he wasn't ready for it and she wasn't ready for it, but it's what we needed to do to
Yeah.
maintain her safety. And so she also misses him a lot and very much her identity is tied to him. And invariably when I visit her, even if my dad is nowhere near, she is very obsessed about my dad. When is he going to be there? And she's very obsessed about my dad's car. My mom's room faces the parking lot and she
Yeah.
is always fixated with finding my dad's car, even when it's not there, or my dad. So for both of them, it goes both ways. They are so used to just being a part of a couple that
Yeah.
you can't underestimate the impact on either of them. And he has gone to
Yeah.
some support groups here and there and done some education, but it's been a hard road. And also I think when someone's in their upper 80s, it's not the easiest thing to learn to ask them to relate to their loved one of 60 plus years in a totally new way. It's not a small ask, I guess is what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a hard thing, man. And I applaud your dad's courage for putting her safety ahead of that, but it doesn't diminish the reality of what it feels like to him and her both, of course. And for you guys as kids to know that their separation is a very tender spot for the both of them. And so I just want to just acknowledge that and put it on the table and our audience to hear that because, Jody, as professionals, we coach, we counsel, we guide, that's how we make a living. We do this all day long. Like we were talking about earlier, like when it's our family, it's so
Oh yeah,
real and raw. Yeah.
100%. It's just very challenging to be
Yeah.
experiencing those things firsthand. But
Yeah.
it took away time, but she's been there now since July, and of course, we had to use that therapeutic fibbing to get her there, and that was all very
Yeah.
orchestrated. So before my mom moved in, 6 months prior, she'd been attending the day club in the same area. So she had some familiarity. With the help of the day club, of course, we came up with the fib. I think she saw right through it. The fib was a great one. We told her the air conditioning stopped working at her Phoenix house, and I
Hmm.
went to great lengths to really work this story up, and I said it was on TV, that there was electric, outages in their neighborhood, and she
Hmm.
can't be there. There's this apartment, and my sister and I were the people who shared this with her, and she was a bit taken off guard. And I'll never forget weeks before we moved her, I stayed with her while my dad was up north, and it was such a surreal experience. I'll never forget Scott being with her the night before, moving her in, staying with her at her house, only to take her to the day club the next day, and then for my sister and I to meet her there and tell her this story about how the air conditioning wasn't working and she couldn't stay at the house, and almost like feeling guilty, like staying with her the night before and not sharing with her what was about to happen. But that's how you have to approach the disease. And of course, we had a lot of her mementos, but it took some adjusting for sure. For sure. I don't know if she saw right through the story, because after we left, the day club manager was there and my mom looked right at the woman and she said something like, This isn't temporary, is it?" And the woman said, well, how do you feel about that?" And my mom said, "Well, it's hard, but I'm a strong woman and I could do it." So she said something like that. I just got chills thinking about that. So she thought she saw right through the story, but then she kept asking me about the air conditioning in the days after. When I would go visit her, she'd ask me, "Is the air?" And I'd say, "No, Mom, it's still out. It's still out. I'll let you know."
Yeah.
So it's like she knew and she didn't know, or she didn't want to know, but it's just amazing just how much is required of those around people with Alzheimer's and dementia, and how
Yeah.
we have to just think on our feet and think outside the box. I think more than ever, these diseases require all of us to truly think quickly on our feet and outside the box. And that can also
Yeah.
be a skill you can learn.
Yeah. Well, the skill is real. Before I became real acquainted with working with people who had memory loss and forms of dementia, I was a home health nurse, and I was doing a visit at a group home on a regular basis, Jody. And the lady was telling me about all Chicago and where she grew up, and she was like in another place. And I wasn't real educated yet, and so I was always reorienting her and going, "No, no, we're in Phoenix, Arizona." So one day, the group home owner called me aside. She goes, "Listen, you're really a nice person, and I really appreciate what you're trying to do for her, but you make my life miserable every time you come over here." Reorienting her. You need to let her be in Chicago, and because she now is confused and pissed because you don't know what you're doing, dog. So the owner was very kind to me, but very clear, like, "Hey, wait a minute, join their journey. Don't redirect them, re-instruct them on where they really are. Where they really are, she was in Chicago. She was
Oh,
revisiting her past."
yeah. Absolutely. And these terms like join their journey, or things I've shared among my own family, the truth
Yeah,
doesn't matter anymore, go along to get along. Or I say, here's a good one: would you rather be right or would you rather be kind? And I hope most people like myself would always choose to be kind.
be kind. The reality in Greater Phoenix now is, I mean, I want to turn this over and maybe point it towards your professional work a little bit, because I think we need to tell people how profound this impact is, the increasing prevalence of disease throughout our population. There's 160,000 80-year-olds already in Maricopa County. There's 1 million people already the age of 65. Not that Alzheimer's disease and various dementias are age related, but of course, we see the biggest spike in those age categories. When I was on the Attorney General's Health and Safety Committee group, was a ad hoc group for a number of years, we identified falling and Alzheimer's disease as the two biggest threats to aging Arizonans. With that being said, here you are at the Alzheimer's Association, engaging with families, engaging with people all the time that either have symptoms of and haven't been diagnosed and haven't gone through that exhaustive testing, but they tell you their story and you're like, you're already there with them. What do you do? Community engagement is your work, but tell us, everybody, what you provide, what the association does for people, and then talk about some of the statistics that I think are driving more of the work as we go forward.
Absolutely, I'd love to. So, the Alzheimer's Association leads the way to end Alzheimer's and all other dementia by accelerating global research, by driving risk reduction and early detection, and by maximizing quality care and support. I don't know if you're aware, the Alzheimer's Association is the world's largest nonprofit funder of Alzheimer's research in the world. Right now, I think we have something like $430 million in 1,100 active projects in 56 countries over 6 continents. So a lot of the money that's donated back to us gets shuttled back to research throughout the globe, as well as the programs and services. Locally, what we have is a 24-hour helpline, and that number is 1-800 272-900. I would encourage anyone listening to this podcast, whether or not you know of anybody impacted by Alzheimer's or another dementia, please store that number in your phone. You never know when you will need it, or maybe somebody you come across in your day-to-day life. That number is answered by dementia-trained experts in like over 200 languages every hour of every day. Also, if people don't want to call it, they can reach it from alz.org. Not everybody's on the phone. Or I think you can dial 711 if you are speech impaired or hearing impaired. Additionally, we have a bunch of education opportunities. We offer education virtually. We offer a number of presentations online that you can access at your convenience. We also offer presentations in person as well as virtually. And we have a bunch of one of them is Community Resource Finder. That is an online database we have in partnership with AARP, and the database has dementia and aging related resources that make it easy for individuals and families facing health issues, including Alzheimer's disease and other dementia, to find programs and services throughout their community anywhere in the nation, not just specific to Arizona. I think it's very popular. I think I heard Community Resource Finder gets something like 37 or 39,000 hits a month. We also have something called ALZ Navigator, which is an online interactive tool. Whether you're someone who has memory issues or you've been diagnosed or you're a caregiver, you can make an individualized care plan that you can later change or update as things go on. And as I said, I think we have 50, 60 support groups. Most of them are for caregivers. We highly recommend anybody who is impacted to attend a support group. Doesn't have to be in person. It can be from the comfort of your home. It can be virtual. Some of them are even via telephone. And then we have one through online support called ALZ Connected. So we very much believe people should be in a support group. They should have access to our helpline. And they should check out alz.org because there's a wealth of information on our website. I haven't even seen it, and I've been with the association since 2014. So we have a lot of resources, and we never want people to feel they have to go on these journeys by themselves because it is such an isolating, devastating diagnosis, these conditions we're speaking of, that we always want them to know we are a phone call away, and often through Helpline is where they make their first contact with the Alzheimer's Association. That's a little bit, go ahead, about what we do, and I can definitely love to share some of the statistics because they're pretty they're a haboob all on their own. Scott, I'm going to take your
bring it. Yeah, bring it. Let us know what the latest research shows. Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to tell you, but I mean, buckle up because a lot of people are not aware how widespread. So right now, we know there's, I think, 7.2 million Americans living with Alzheimer's over 65. That number is projected to almost double to 14 million by 2050. We know that there are 12 million caregivers out there providing unpaid care made up of family and friends for these individuals. Locally, there's 151,500 individuals with Arizonans living with Alzheimer's. And in 2025 alone, it's estimated Alzheimer's will cost the nation, I believe, $84 billion. Alzheimer's kills more people than breast cancer and prostate cancer together. At age 45, the lifetime risk is 1 in 5 for women, 1 in 10 for men. Women in their 60s are more than twice as likely to develop Alzheimer's as they are breast cancer over the rest of their lives. So we know that also Alzheimer's, while it is not a normal part of aging, we know that age is the highest risk factor, and we know 1 in 3 seniors will die from Alzheimer's or another dementia. So I think once you hit age 65, everybody's individual risk doubles every 5 years for Alzheimer's. And we know women, some groups are disproportionately impacted by Alzheimer's and other dementia, progressive dementia. Women are one. I think right now they say that women are at the epicenter of the Alzheimer's crisis, with women representing 2/3 of the people living with Alzheimer's, as well as 2/3 of the caregivers. And we know that, surprise, surprise, women take on more of the caregiving tasks than our male counterparts. Probably no surprise there, but we know women often have to forgo advancement in their jobs. Some go from full-time to part-time. So oftentimes women are the ones being impacted in the work world with their caregiving duties.
I wished I had a sister so bad when mom was getting sick last year. I'm the oldest of 4 brothers. I'm like, "Where's I got gypped. I
I know.
wanted a
Scott, you need to see if you can rent one maybe, I don't know.
I needed a rent a sister." The reality is, with each person affected, that one individual has what a minimum of 4 unpaid caregivers around them, different family members. The burden is insane. I did a conversation with a human resource director, Jodie, that oversees part and element of the state of Arizona's the Department of Agriculture in one of our earliest episodes. And so many employees are still working, carrying, holding down their jobs, carrying a lot of responsibilities, managing someone affected. How is that person able to focus and stay at work? How is that person able to remain productive and attendance because these things are real. This is the diffusion of the impact of the disease is that
Absolutely.
it's so hard. And if you have a 9 to 5 job, it makes it way hard to address what your parents might need from you. I had enough
Absolutely.
challenge with my own business.
Yeah, and when you said that, it just made me think, Scott, of like a bomb landing, and then I don't know what it's called, but all the shrapnel or whatever. And that's the thing we know about these diseases is these are not individual diseases. These affect families, communities. So the impact is vast. It's certainly not just that one individual. It's the person who has to leave work early or who has to maybe start working from home, or it has so many repercussions that I think it's really important that if one person feels like they're doing the bulk of the work and there are more family members, then we have to really empower them that it's necessary for them to reach out and ask for help. And if other family don't live locally, you can give them other things to do. Maybe they can do research, maybe they can help pay for some respite. But it's important for just not one person to take on these monumental tasks, especially when, in all likelihood, they may have families, they may have
Yeah.
jobs, so they have other responsibilities that they're juggling at the same time. That's just the reality of it.
Yeah. 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 You guys, we're professionals. I'll say tongue in cheek. We know what we're doing. This is what because of our personal experiences, we're imploring you, if you're listening to us, please don't try to do this alone. You need people. You might need a third party to come into the situation to help you with difficult conversations. I did. I had to get a third person because mom and I were just at odds with each other. She wasn't hearing it. And she was only seeing her son telling her what to do, not a trusted professional alongside. So I had to get a trusted professional that could help break some of that down. I'm sure you recommend in some families, they get a third party to come help be a voice of reason or a objective, outside voice into this thing. And so before we get out of here, Jodie, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate your sharing and your personal journey, but the phenomenal work that you guys at the association do for our community. What besides don't do it alone? Is anything else as we've been talking today? Any things that you might tell other professionals, church pastors, social workers, financial advisors, if you've got these people in your life or you've got adult kids in your life, what should they be listening for or maybe even asking about to illuminate so that, man, they could guide them over to you guys and pick up the phone. It doesn't cost anything to call you or to get some help, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no charges. And I think, first
Yeah.
of all, if anybody starts noticing changes in their loved one, that it's important not to just dismiss those and to maybe even document them and to try to accompany loved ones to the doctor's office because I don't think it's always like a very prominent thing that slams you in the face and you're like, okay, we have a problem. It just kind of creeps up on you slowly. So I think it's incumbent upon all of us to be very alert, especially having elderly parents, to just what's going on with them and things that might be happening. And if there's concerns, to have them reach out to our helpline number at 100 to look to get educated at alz.org. We have great information. Even when you're visiting a doctor, there's documents you can fill out from our website that you can really maximize the most of your time with your doctor. Because we know when you get in with your doctor, it's not a leisurely thing. It seems like it's over before it started, right? So we want people to get the information they need when they're in front of their loved one's doctor. So we don't want people to feel they have to do these things on their own or to neglect themselves. We are always telling people that, I mean, truly, Scott, our caregivers are the real unsung heroes of this disease, along with the loved ones living this journey. So we have
Yeah.
to support all of our caregivers as much as we can and make sure they're taking care of themselves.
Well, I've been asking people to share this question, and I'll share it with you. If you're a professional, hearing what I'm saying here, ask people in your world: is there a family member in your life whose aging journey is causing the rest of you or the rest of the family some sort of pain or distress? Please expose the issue, because people are stoic. They keep for themselves. They don't want to share. And so if we can open that up, it opens up the conversation some. Here at Options for Senior Living and our Senior Resource Connectors business, Jody, for the last years we've been saying it's our turn now. I feel very personal about this. I want to care for other adult children, people like you and I that are going through this, and I take ownership in it, and I say it's our turn now to love and care for those who loved and cared for us. And so I really feel the truth in that, and I'm super grateful that you're always so willing to share and to chirp in and be an advocate for so many people. Man, thanks for being here today. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate the time and I appreciate your life's work because I think that this population deserves as much help and recognition as it can get. So I appreciate the work you do too, Scott.
Thank you. Thank you. Before I get out of here, we set up in the last year, Jody, I've told you about this. We've set up a private Facebook group. We call it the Aging Parent Tribe. You can find us Aging Parent Tribe Phoenix. We have hundreds of families and family caregivers now joining the tribe, where they can bring their stories, find support, find resources, another free way to connect and not operate in isolation. So we invite you to come to Facebook, join the tribe. It's a private group. You will not be bombarded by a bunch of professionals. There'll be some contributions from some of the professionals in there, guides, tips, helpful hints, but you're not going to be pummeled by opportunistic business owners to take advantage of vulnerable people. We want you to come be there, feel safe and share. And so we call that, once again, the Aging Parent Tribe. If you're in transition, you need help, you need some insight to this. I've owed Options for Senior Living for 23 years. My family and I operate that business all over the greater Phoenix area. We provide a free service to families to help them navigate the complexities of long-term care and finding the right memory care, assisted living care when that time comes. And so we're honored to answer those calls and help families in any way we can. So check us out at optionsforseniorliving.com. I hope you come back and join us for another episode. I'm having a blast talking to my buddies and professionals all over Phoenix, and for some of these conversations are with friends of mine from outside the valley. So once again, Jody, thank you for your time this afternoon. And you guys like and follow and download and do all the stuff. And you can
Thanks
find
for telling
Jody
me
and all
about
her.
that. I'm going to join it.
Yeah, you betcha. All right, listen, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you again. Look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Take care.
Thank you.